Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Deputy Editorial Director at Media Post, and welcome to Insider Summit BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Shelley Pratt. She is the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Media at Infiniti. Welcome, Shelley.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. And first, I have to say congratulations on the new position. I know it's what, earlier this year. When did this all happen?
Three months. So we're sitting right at 3 months.
So it's starting to settle in, but still, it's still, I'm sure, exciting for you.
Yes, very much so. And I'm not a newbie to Infinity by any standards. I've been with the company since 2006, so
Mhm.
just newer to the role. But marketing's been in my blood this entire time.
Well, that's awesome. And we did just meet. We were back at the automotive
Yeah.
conference, and that was great. I loved hearing all about what you guys are doing with Waze and just your strategies behind it. But today, I want to hear more about Shelley. So I'm really
Great.
glad that you were able to take the time to do this. And well, one of the things that we did talk about when we spoke at the automotive conference was really how women are changing the way luxury cars are being designed. So, and I know that's something with cars, and that's obviously a big part of what you do on a day to day basis for work. But I'm just curious, what do you think, or how do you think women have changed the automotive industry, and not just in terms of what is being produced, but behind the scenes? And I know it's been in the past, it's been more of a boys club, but we're seeing more people like yourself in these kind of higher positions. So talk about that and how women sort of add their little how a twist is becoming, it's having that kind of point of view.
Absolutely. And in the past, we haven't always been represented in automotive. That's definitely changing as you look at the structure and people in different positions now. I used to look back and think that I might not be able to get to certain levels because I never saw anybody like me there. And as I said, it's different for me now. I have people I can look up to, people that I could see that have done this in the past. A great example for me is Allison Witherspoon. She's
Mhm.
the CMO of Nissan. She sat in this job before. So it really changes the way you think of, okay, I don't have to stop at a certain level. I can keep going. I can keep growing. And I can keep succeeding. And it's always important for me to remember that feeling because there's a lot of people, a lot of women on my team, a lot of women in this company that look up to me. And really, if I can inspire them and be a role model to them, I think that changes the way that they go to their, business and their career. And I think that that's one of the most inspiring things for me and something that I will look back and define as success. And in other ways that it's changing, even the marketing itself, that's what I'm in charge of. We look at the advertising. We recently launched the QX60. It's for a busy working mother, and anybody understands that, it's probably me. I have a teenager myself. And so to be able to portray this target customer in a truly authentic way, that's huge. Before you never always had this representation of this. And it's easy for me to go out there and speak to these working mothers because I could truly identify with that.
Well, and I think also, I mean, women are predominantly the majority car buyers, and that's something that you need to, as you said, you understand their lives, and hearing all these different voices, different women in different levels of their life, hearing what they have to say as a marketer must make your job that much easier to be able to sort of know how to speak to these people. And so it's still kind of baffling that it hasn't been the case for so long, and finally now we're seeing more of this. And
Right.
talk about that a little bit, and because you have been, as you mentioned, not only with Infinity but within the car industry for a little while. Talk about that and how you've seen that evolve over the years.
Yeah, we could be truly change agents now, especially with this vehicle, the QX60. We saw from our data that, women of this category don't necessarily love the automotive industry. They're not enthusiasts. So we had to really find a different way to speak to them. And maybe that's not something we would have done in the past. But now we go in and we gave the cars to influencers and we said, all right, in your own words, come out and talk about this vehicle. Not our words, not the factory words, not leading heavily into like features and benefits, but how does this really impact your life? And I think that's very different than anything we've done in the past, where, before it was, we looked at a lot of the TV commercials and then how does that show up otherwise? But now we started rooted in the customer, rooted in this female buyer, and we did it differently. We talked about it differently. We planned it differently. And, I think it's the right way to look at the customer first and identify what they want and what they need.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier too, that you are a role model for other women in your industry, but also think of the women just starting out and maybe or looking for a change of career. And you obviously love your career. You love being in the automotive industry. How would you, if someone came to you, because you don't necessarily see women still jumping into that into to be in the automotive industry, whatever capacity. So, but what would you say to them so they could help maybe see that passion and see why it is something that you've found so fulfilling all these years?
Yeah, absolutely. And automotive industry, it can be challenging at times for anybody, women, men, anybody. It's pretty fast-paced environment. It's something I personally love. The rewards are totally worth it. So I talk to anybody about this as they're considering automotive. Sometimes I speak at my daughter's school, some college students. It's you get these opportunities you never would have before or with any other industry. I'll give you a great example. My creative team that does all of the commercials and the shoots and things like that, they never would have experienced something like that. They're going to a Hollywood set. They're working with Hollywood directors. They're enjoying craft services, things that you never could have the opportunity to do if you weren't in automotive. So while it's a lot of work, sometimes a lot of hours, the reward is something that you could never really experience anywhere else. I love it. I actually left the automotive industry for a short bit of time and missed it. I miss the fast-paced environment. I miss all of the change that we're doing. And we meet with industry leaders, with heads of Google and Pinterest and Meta, and we're really on the forefront of doing things that other companies just don't do. And it's just really exciting and invigorating.
Yeah, you can see that from just listening to you talk, you just light up. And
Yeah.
but getting back to, you sort of said you had left the industry for a bit, but even like let's go further back. When you first were starting out, you didn't start in automotive. So was that how did that come about? Like talk about your path a little
Yeah.
bit. Was automotive even in your radar when you were first graduating, or how did it evolve into where you are today?
Yeah, oddly enough, my career started in power tools. So I'm not sure that I have a typical career path for most women, but I started in power tool sales. And I really did love going into an industry that wasn't predominantly female. You could just really blaze your own path. It has its own challenges, but I love those. I always knew I wanted to be in marketing though. And it's something that I'd always strive for. I can tell you since 8th grade, this is something I knew I wanted to do when we had a speaker come in. And so when Nissan was moving to Nashville, to Tennessee back in 2006, I thought, wow, that could be my opportunity. That could be my chance to get into marketing and cut my teeth. And back in the day, I had to fax my resume in, and I was a salesperson, so I was pitching why I thought they should hire me with no automotive experience. And luckily for me, they did, and I got in, and I truly did enjoy it and learned the product, learned the industry, learn the nuances of it. And it's something that I've always just really loved and have had a passion for. So it's probably not a normal path, but I wouldn't change it.
So you did actually set out for it. That's, I mean, that's
I did.
really
Yeah.
amazing. But I love that you didn't start there necessarily because that wasn't what was offered to you. But then once you saw that opportunity, which I think is so important, that you then just go for it. Because
Yeah.
nothing else that can happen. It doesn't happen. But as you said, I mean, you've been doing, I believe, in the automotive like 15 years or so. So it's been you've had an evolution of where, as you said, now you're seeing more people, more women in higher positions that you were able to look at and say, okay, this is who I want to be. And you're hoping to do that for other women. But were there obstacles along the way? I mean, you were fortunate, you jumped in and you had that opportunity. But were you ever feeling stifled at points, or, trying to prove yourself a little bit more so as a woman in an industry that, did tend to be a little bit more male dominated?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think anybody coming into a new career, they face their challenges, right? And I'm no different. My biggest challenge that I faced, my biggest obstacle was actually when I became a mother. I was trying to figure out how to be in this world where I looked around and I didn't really see anybody like me. I didn't see a lot of mothers. I didn't have a lot of mentors at the time. And, I was lower in my career and still trying to grow. And then at home trying to keep a human alive. So, I really struggled of this balance of trying to figure out work, like trying to be really good at work and trying to be a really good mother. And there was days where I didn't feel like I might have been good at either one of them. And what helped me is I formed this network of women outside of the company that were supporters. You know, you were able to bounce things off of them, get their advice, talk about the challenges you face. And sometimes it's just good to have somebody listen to you. And, you know, it's very different now. I look around and there's tons of new parents. You know, it doesn't just have to be a mother. I think both mothers and fathers have to figure out how to work and maybe have a child at home. And I still face some challenges because I have a teenager and trying to figure out what that balance is. But I do a much better job of it. And I think something that helps me do a better job is I know I have a lot of people looking to me and watching me. And like I said, trying to be a role model for them, that you can actually have this job, this, you know, pretty high pressure, high fast paced job, but still also be a very good mother, daughter, wife, friend. You know, it doesn't have to be a parent. We've all these different facets, and I want to make sure that I can do that for other people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's really what you when you said about finding that social group, finding that outlet, and I think we are hearing people have that conversation more often now, and even with fathers, as you mentioned, just that they're taking time off. There's paternity leave. There's this time they're taking more of an active presence in a newborn or child's life. But when you feel those pressures, because it's obviously, as you said, you almost felt like you were feeling on both sides, you know, both with as a mom and within the industry, within your company. But how did you then, aside from that group, what did you have in yourself to say, okay, I'm going to forget this and do this? Or like, how did you balance that? And it's funny, I actually had an interview with a woman who she talked about it not as balance, but harmony, because
Yeah.
there's always going to be give and take. And I love that. Like, and so I'm just curious, were you more that way, balance, or how did you get through those struggles within yourself?
I think it came to a moment of self-reflection of I didn't have to be perfect. You know, the striving for this perfection is probably not a great place to be. And I think I was trying to do that. You know, I'm trying to be very good here and trying to be a good mom. And I finally got to the point where, you know, I could be really good and I could be happy and we could be happy at home. And I'm actually very lucky because I have a husband and a daughter and we're all invested in this together and we talk about it and we talk about the struggles we face. And they're a great support unit for me. And it's good for me to admit sometimes to my daughter, oh, maybe I didn't do this right. Or at work to say, maybe I didn't do this right. And just not trying to strive for this perfection, but really just giving the best that you can, doing the best that you can. And I think being able to see that, it helps people be able to do that themselves.
And it must be having a teenage daughter. It must be for her to have a mom that's doing both and doing all that. That must be, it's kind of like you said, you weren't sure if it was something that you could even achieve because you didn't have those kind of people to, you know, as role models, those kind of women in that position. Whereas your daughter is living with that. And
Yeah.
you talk about that generation. I mean, what do you see for them? What do you hope for your daughter? What, even talking with her, does she have a different mentality than you did when you were that age?
Yeah, you know, that age group is so interesting. And I always feel like I learn from my daughter. Her name's Addison. And sometimes I wish I could be a little bit more like Addison. She's just fearless. You know, she doesn't have these boundaries around her or self-imposed boundaries around her. She's got a larger than life personality and she's dynamic and she just puts herself out there and she questions everything. Like, why? And sometimes I take that to work of, you know, how can I start questioning things different and driving things different? Because she makes me think differently. And so it's been great to be able to take that into the work with me of how she's changed me and helped me actually be a better person. And if I could just be a little bit more like her, I actually feel like I'd be a pretty great person overall because she just has this huge personality that I'm in awe of her.
That's awesome. But you know, I'm sure part of that huge personality or that fearlessness is seeing, you know, what you strived through, what you struggled through. You know, it's just it's now there's no blockades for her because they weren't for you. I mean, that she saw. She just sees this successful mom.
Yeah. And her moment for me, she saw me on YouTube once, and she was like, I saw you on YouTube. I was like, this is the moment that you think that I made it. Okay.
Now you just need to do a TikTok. Okay.
Uh, she's trying.
Well, I actually have to say, I thought I like to do my snooping, I always say. and on your Twitter feed, I saw you've amazing profile picture of you with this dune buggy and your helmet. So, I mean, talk about that. That is so cool.
That was on one of the shoots. So, talking about experiences that you would never have before, we were shooting on a white sand desert somewhere in California. And one of the photographers was a dune buggy driver, and like he had it out there. And so I was like, can I just drive that? So he said, sure. So I just jumped in and I got in there, and I really had the best time. It was kind of terrifying because,
I was gonna say.
you could flip it pretty easily, but I went out there and I just enjoyed it. It was kind of one of those, just embracing the moment of how often am I around a dune buggy and, a desert. So I did, and I had the best time. I didn't like it so much when he was driving because he was a professional and it kind of scared me, but when I could drive it and I was in control, I enjoyed it much more.
Speed a little less when you drove than when
Yes. The corner's a little slower.
like, but at least that would be for me. I love these kind of things, like even skiing and activity, like those, but I do it in a more, I'm not going to be like, doing that accelerated. I don't have this need for speed.
No, I don't either. But I wanted the adventure.
I like this, whatever. But I love what you say that, because even with my job, I was able to do axe throwing. So it was like, and it was something that was so cool. I've never seen it. And, I'm like, I have to do this. And it's being able to take advantage of these opportunities that our jobs give us. So I think that's really, fun to do. But so I want to ask you is, you had mentioned on your Twitter feed again, that one of the things you really missed during the pandemic was live music. So I'm curious. So first talk about even just a memory of like one of your favorite live shows. Talk about that and what about it was so amazing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love live music. It's absolutely easy to do when you live in Nashville. So we're exposed to it all the time. And I'm one of those, if anybody asks me in concert, I'll go. I recently, some friends were like, you want to go to Jonas Brothers? I'm like, sure, why not? Let's try it. So I'm pretty open and diverse in my music. And I did miss it. You're just in the audience and you feel it and everybody loves it and you're singing. It's just this moment that you can't really replicate. That's live. And my best memory is I went to a Snow Patrol concert in Lisbon, Portugal, 2019. And it was just amazing. You're kind of standing down in this pit from people from all other countries. And the lead singer, he forgets the lyrics a lot and he jokes and he talks to the audience. And it makes you feel like you're in a very small venue, even though you're not necessarily. And then one moment, their big song, Chasing Cars came on and everybody was locking arms. And I had someone from France on one side of me and Spain on the other. And who knows if we even spoke the same language, but we're all just in this moment enjoying it. And it's just something that you won't forget. It's this collective. It just brings this diverse group of people together, this love of music. And after the concert ended, we actually bumped into the band. So it was one of those like highlights of my life, huge moments. Yeah, I wish I was eloquent in what I said to them, but I think I freaked out and just shouted facts at them and got excited and took a picture and ran away. But it was a really amazing moment for me.
Well, and I agree. Like music can definitely be, as you said, it's sort of that universal. Everyone, you love the music, whatever that may be. Everyone has different styles or whatever, but it's not about whether you can understand each other and speak the same language or share the same politics or whatever it may be. It's just you enjoy that music. So I also noticed you went to a Justin Timberlake concert.
I did. I love Justin Timberlake too. So he's also an Nashvilleian. I think I've been to all of his concerts. He's
Really?
he's just an amazing performer. He's really great. My favorite, he actually played at a smaller festival here, a pilgrimage festival in Franklin with Chris Stapleton. And it was one of those, like, it felt like a small town moment, Franklin, Tennessee. It was actually a big festival, but it was just such a great performance to be able to see him in such a small venue.
That's awesome. No, I feel the same way. And I do, like, I've only been to Nashville a couple of times, but you just, you're just walking down, what's that main street there?
Broadway?
Yes. And there's just music piping out of everywhere, and you just stop, and it's live bands, and it's so fun. I mean, that was pre-pandemic. I'm hoping, has it gone back? Is it back?
Yeah, we're back.
We'll be there in a couple of months for one of our shows, and but it's just, yeah, I'm actually not programming that show, but I'm like, I will carry your luggage. I am going to
Yes,
Okay.
come down, come down.
I'm definitely going. So anyway, but it's just a vibe you just don't get anywhere else. It really is. It's so fun, and it doesn't matter who the bands are, but it's just great to just be a part of that atmosphere. So I
Yeah,
definitely hear you saying. So you're very lucky to be in that area.
yeah, I love it.
Well, I want to get into a little bit. Again, when we spoke back at Automotive, and you had talked about your partnership with Waze, which is very cool, and it's basically shining a light on women-owned businesses, something that is lacking in terms of not the women-owned businesses, but that putting profiling them and getting the word out. Well, that was also part of Women's History Month, or is that right? Women's History
Yeah,
Month.
internet, exactly.
And so it talks about history and historic. So I want to, just out of curiosity, what woman in history would you like to have coffee with?
This one's an easy for me. It ties it kind of back to my whole Tennessee roots, but it's actually Dolly Parton. I would love to have a moment with her. Aside from the fact that we're both Tennesseans, I'm a proud Dolly fan. She's just authentic, and she's proven time and time again it's to be authentic, to be true to yourself. Even if that means you don't look like everybody around you or you don't act like everybody around you, you can really stay who you are and be who you are. She's smart. She's kind. She's giving. She gives back. She gave back to East Tennessee after some wildfires, donated millions of dollars to help people get back up to speed, businesses back. And she does this all in sequence. So, I can always appreciate that little flash of flair. But she's also kind of defied convention before that was cool. She's been doing this for a very long time of just standing out and being true. And that must have been much harder back when she started, than it is now. And I think she's probably paved the way forward for many of these women to be that and to lean into who they are.
Yep, I agree. And it's funny how I'm sure you've heard that she was being nominated for to be in the rock, what's it,
The Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sort of saying, I'm not that. Like, why would I be nominated? And that kind of shows Dolly. I mean, of course she is. 9 to 5. I mean, she does rock. I mean, she does. Obviously, she's more known for her country, but but it shows. I interviewed her once years back, and she just was the sweetest, just like down to earth person, and I feel like that comes across in just who she is, and when you see her in her acts and her performance and just being awarded things. So
yeah, and to be a powerhouse and to still be very kind, I think that's something we can all aspire to do.
yeah, no, I agree. Now, okay, on the other side of that, who knows, maybe the answer could be the same, is who do you want to have cocktails with?
Well, that's right. Well, another strong female, it'd be Taylor Swift.
Okay.
She's an amazing songwriter. She's an amazing entertainer. I've been to her concerts as well. She's actually one of the best marketers out there. If you watch her as some albums come out, like to wipe her Instagram clean and then start over, that's something that would scare all of us because of messing with the algorithms and things. But she wasn't afraid to do it, and she did it very well. And she's someone that fights for the underdog. She sued a man $1 for being inappropriate with her. And it kind of inspires me that this is the kind of world my daughter will grow up in, that she's not afraid to stick up for herself, and she sees someone like a Taylor Swift do it. And although she's younger than me, I look up to her. I think she's great to be able to do that. And then also, since we are talking that we would have cocktails, I'm not sure if you saw the Drunk Taylor hashtag back in the day where she was having some fun, and it was trending on Twitter. And she came out and her response was that she feels like a magical wizard after 2 drinks. And so, she has fun. And I think I could get behind that for a happy hour.
Yep. But you have to watch out. It might become a song.
Yes. I'll be on my best behavior.
It will become a song. Okay, well, that's good. So obviously we're keeping in that country mode. I actually do love country. I love the stories. It wasn't something that I initially was a country fan per se, but when I started, I actually couldn't find another radio station on my car, so I started listening to it, and then I listened to all the words, and that's what drew me in and what made me become, now I am a country fan, and that's what I put the country stations on and that kind of thing. So I think that's what I love about country music the most, is just these stories.
Yeah. Or she even transcends that of, she decided she wanted to be a pop singer for a while, and so she was pop, and then her last album was more like folk. So I think it's kind of great that she can stretch and just be creative however she wants to be creative. And in the past, you'd probably be defined by one thing, and she kind of shows that you don't have to be.
Yes, no, and I totally, with Taylor Swift, I didn't mean to assume like to talk about. I realized it's gone past the country world, but just it started me thinking of it in terms of that's one of the things that I do love about the country industry. But when Taylor Swift is, of course, a great storyteller. So whether
She
it's
is.
country or pop or whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
now let's get back a little bit to just your career and not
Yeah.
just actually even life. You talked a little bit about when you started working and just, the struggles you went through when you were sort of struggling being mom and working, but also were there any setbacks maybe that happened otherwise? And it may not even have been in business, or it could be, or maybe it was in personal, where you really sort of thought this was the worst thing that could happen, but then it ultimately turned into, kind of that silver lining. When you look back on it, it was a good thing that it happened because it brought you to that next point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can always learn from, things that we've done, whether well or things that we wish we could have improved upon. There was actually a time where I kind of thought maybe I wanted to stretch outside of automotive. I wanted to try something new, and I left Infinity for a while. I went to the world of travel. It was a hard decision. It was very hard, something I struggled with. But I wanted to diversify my background and maybe see what else was out there. And so I did. I went to another company where I was the director of marketing there. And, while it was exciting and fun, I really missed the team here. I missed the people. We talked a little bit before about how we're really a family type unit here. We truly support each other. We help each other out. It's something that I continued to miss when I was gone. While I was gone, I did learn to be a leaner way to operate. Less resources, less people, a big scope to get things done to market globally. I also learned, what it was like to manage teams globally. I had teams in the US, I had teams in London, and to try to figure that out and be on different playing fields. It was great to be able to bring back with me. But I think where I really leaned in is to be more strategic with less resources, to really think like a startup type mentality. So, when an opportunity came up here to come back to launch our business intelligence team, I was able to take all of those resources of how do I act like a startup, and how do I be lean, and how do I drive the business forward with maybe less resources than maybe some of my other counterparts in the team. And I absolutely jumped at the opportunity to come back, not only for the people, but for the work and for the brand. And, at the time, it was something that I struggled through when I was gone. And when I came back, it's just something I won't take for granted again. And it puts a lot of things in perspective. So, even when times can be tough or high pressure, I just remember how happy and I am to be here, and grateful, very grateful to be here and to work on the business.
Well, and I think that that's an interesting question to ask. Like, is someone who's maybe in the career and they're younger, and maybe there's wondering, just as you wondered, what is outside of Infinity, and then you
Mhm.
took that opportunity, because there's a thing to say about, okay, yes, take those opportunities, see what else you can do, but then there's also go the plan, stick with the company and go. So like if your daughter even came to you in, maybe she's in her career in 5 years or so, 6 years, and then she's sort of wondering, but she has this great opportunity where she is, how would you advise her? How would you advise someone younger who is looking at that sort of fork road?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting. You don't want to dictate to somebody else, but look at people's paths and also realize you have your own to take. There could be here's a prescriptive A, B, C. This is how you're going to get there, or there's your way, and neither way's right, neither way's wrong. I wouldn't take it back. I learned a ton from going somewhere else, and I came back with a totally different perspective of what I truly value and what I truly want. And I even tell people on my team, it's their career, it's their life. I can't tell them what to do next. I can't dictate what's going to happen for them, and that they really have to take charge of their own career. Find people that you trust, find people you can bounce things off of, but take ownership of it, and truly do what you think you want, and for the right reasons, and prioritize those different reasons of my daughter does ask me a lot of questions, and sometimes I can't make this decision for you, but here's what I happened in my past, and here's how this can help you. But I think it's okay not to have a linear path. It could zig and zag sometimes.
Yeah, no, and that's totally true. And I think that especially if it's really this kind of urge, you want to kind of do that urge early on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like you don't want to look back, because ultimately, if it's a strong feeling, if it's just a maybe, and But if it's fear that's stopping you, sometimes it's better to just jump in. I mean, not everyone quit your job suddenly and, and then blame me when you're in unemployment. I just
Yes.
feel like you have to go with your heart or your gut sometimes. And then ultimately, as scary as it can be, it can bring you to that next point.
And trust your gut too. Something to listen to yourself and listen to your gut, and it's okay to be able to lean in that way too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I love to ask also, in terms of if you could live during any time period, what era would you live in?
So I love this question. It'd be absolutely the 1920s. For one of my birthdays, we had to choose your own decade, so where you could come dressed up at whatever decade you wanted to be, and of course, I chose 20s. I love the idea of the Roaring 20s with the big fabulous parties and great Gatsby-esque. And what's really interesting for us is that really was the beginning of automotive, right? Like that 1920s, 1922 timeframe is where it became attainable for everybody to actually get a vehicle, and completely shaped the way we live our lives now. Travel and going places and accessibility, like that was the time, right? That shaped it. And there's something so romantic about that. And to be a fly on the wall in some of those meetings would have been amazing, where it's an amazing time period in history, and then also in automotive.
Yeah. Well, you would have had to be a fly on the wall as a woman.
We can have a revisionist history.
Yes, definitely. And all right, now how about, and just this would be the final question, but just in terms of, I like to hear, if you couldn't be in marketing and in automotive,
Yeah.
what would you do? What would you be doing?
That's a great question. It was easy for me because, as I said earlier, from a young age, I knew I wanted to be a marketing since eighth grade. We had a speaker come in, so it's something I set my goals on. I graduated college in marketing, my master's degree in marketing. But in college and high school, I was actually a florist. I loved it. And so if I had to do anything else, it would be to open up my own floral shop. Just getting lost in the creativity and creating something beautiful and have something tangible that you made. I really loved it, and I truly enjoyed it when I was doing it.
That's awesome. Now, do you have like a green thumb? Do you like to grow plants and flowers, or is it
I
more you like to put them together in, for the people to buy in vases and things?
I'm great at buying them. So I can put them together and I can arrange it. I've attempted growing some plants. I wouldn't say I'm the best at that. So I could stick to the arranging and purchasing it and making it look beautiful in the end, but probably not growing it myself.
So you just hire the person, the people that grow their flowers, their beautiful flowers, and then you make them into these beautiful bouquets.
Absolutely. I'm capable of doing that. And I've done some friends' weddings in the past too. Like that was my gift to them. I did all of the bouquets and things like that. So I do enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Very good to know. Okay.
Yeah. If you ever need any, let me know.
Hire you out one of these times. We need some flowers at our media post conventions. Or,
Got it.
well, that is awesome. Well, Shelley, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me and sharing all this with me. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. It was great talking to you. And thank you for the opportunity to let me share my background.
Well, I'd love to hear it. And thank you for watching. Again, we do this each week. If you have a marketer, a woman marketer who you would love to hear a little bit more about or have me profile, please let me know and I'll do my best. Thank you. Thanks again, Shelley.